perfect. Oh yeah, 100 times better.
Yeah,
Yeah, see,
better.
can't have them in a bad light.
No, definitely not. Yeah, that's so funny. All right, you good?
I'm good.
You hear me
Okay,
good?
cool. So when I do this, I don't do any introductions because I'll put something ahead of time. And kind of what I want to try to get to the point of is you tell me right now, like maybe like the top 4 or 5 records you got or you still
Mhm.
hold. And
Okay.
then what we'll do is we'll we'll walk back and start from where did you grow up, how did you get into it, all that kind of stuff. But I think it would be cool to say right now, hey, you know, this is Mark Ironfield and you have or hold so many world records or records and at the ages you did it. I think is important. That's what I'd like to hear about is that
Okay.
hey, here you are, you're what, 62 now?
Yeah, I'll be 63 in September 16th.
Yeah, so 63 years old and at like 50. I wrote down some of this stuff the other day, but like give me the lowdown of even when you were younger, what records did you have and how many you got now?
Um, the 2000 total was a massive one for me at 55 years old, I think, if that's correct. Um, uh, that's when I did an 811 squat and then a 711 pull, both in the same meet. Um, the push pull at 58 years old, where I benched 447, 446, it's kilos, in a 688 pull is still a world record to this day. Um, as of checking a couple of weeks ago, I was the oldest man in the world to squat 805 at 58 years old at a body weight of 227.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a lot of fun on the journey, that's for sure. You
Yeah.
know,
So for people that don't know, we're talking about Olympic powerlifting moves, right? So there's
powerlifting, yes.
and the some of the questions that I asked my wife she's like, well, I said, what do you want to know? And so there's a lot of questions like the all natural versus, it's tested, what the federation is or the organization. And then for like I said, play like pretend nobody that we're talking to knows what we're talking about in terms of the lifts you just mentioned, pull, deadlift,
Mm-hmm.
squat, bench, and those are the three kind of major in powerlifting, I guess. But you
Yes.
tell us.
What it is that you start off with a squat, and that gives you points. Obviously, if you squat 100 pounds, you get 100. And then bench after that, and then deadlift, where you lift a bar off the ground. And you combine those, and with your age, there's a formula that you come up with. And that's how it is in powerlifting. So every group has an age, a weight limit. I'm always around the same weight. I hover around 227 for forever, for a
Yeah.
long time. My body does not change that much. Um, and that's how it works in powerlifting. Strongest man and percentages wins the overall. And that's basically what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how so the thing that I think a lot of the people in my audience like to hear about is when because I run the as you get older, I mean, I'm not getting any faster, but I'm not getting much slower. But it all comes down to the age group,
Right.
right? So like every race used to be, okay, way back it was masters only, right? So it was like everybody open and then masters was like over 40. Is weightlifting similar to that? Did it go from like say just was it always age groups? And
It's
what are
it's
those cut
always
like what
been age groups, 5 year increments.
okay.
So, in other words, let's see, I'm in the 55 to 60 class now. Excuse me, no, I'm in the 60 to 65 class. So that changes everything. And then the pool, it thins out after that because there's not a lot of guys and girls lifting at that age,
Yeah.
um, that can, you know, go at a high level, Joe. And
Yeah.
it's mind over matter. That's really what it comes down to. Your body
You want
is
to
an
hear some
amazing machine.
yeah, you want to hear something crazy? There's a race called the Western States 100, and it just happened last weekend. And a guy, and I might be getting screwed up. It was either Western States or Badwater. I'm pretty sure it was Western States. 80 years old, and he finished. It's one of the. It's first of all, it's the like the oldest, most like notorious or famous 100 miler. It starts out in California, and it's ridiculous, hard to get in. There's limited numbers, but this guy, 80 years old.
Wow.
I know.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
yeah,
Once again, the body, is you take care of it, it can do amazing things.
yeah.
Absolutely amazing,
Yeah, I want to dive into all that once we get through your history here, because I think I'm curious to know, and I've known through Mike and through the gym. I can't even remember the first time that I met you, but it was probably late 90s or so, and maybe even going back to the original Nautilus. But tell me, because I don't know really where you grew up. Did you play sports?
I grew up in a town called Framingham, Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, so I
And
went to Framingham
yeah,
State.
big town, four high schools. So it was a really big town. I started weightlifting very young, out of middle school, cement weights in a buddy's basement. Loved it. I just absolutely loved it. Got into football and baseball, was okay, not great at it, but I found that I was really good at weightlifting, and two guys took the time with me. And I kind of use that now because I run a free gym at my house. So anybody that comes through the door, it's free, no
Wow.
questions asked, just show up. I give them a schedule when I'm lifting or when I have lifters going, and it's all free because somebody took the time with me.
Yeah. Did you go to
Um,
Pep's gym?
I did. I
Did
did.
you
Pep's
really?
Gym. Yeah. Yeah. That's where I really, that was my first gym.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing experience. Um, the Pauls ran the gym. They were Christian lifters and they were strong as anything. I mean, they were,
Yeah.
great. And they put me in a mock meet and at their gym to get me ready for my first novice meet. And my first novice meet was in Whitman, Mass. And I won
Hmm.
the overall in that meet.
And how old were you then?
Oh gosh, 1984, 85. So
So 20 something?
yeah, yeah,
Because you're 5 years older than me, so I was 18. Yeah, so you were like 23.
yeah, yeah. And it went on from there. I mean, but once again, somebody took the time with me. Two guys, Jim Muto and John Pittman. Those were the guys that took the time with me, showed me how to lift
Yeah.
right. And I was always a skinny kid, real skinny kid, but I just loved it. I loved the whole thing, being around guys. Um, it was just great. It was really great.
Yeah. It's crazy that you mentioned they took you under their wing because that's another theme that I'm finding that everyone I've talked to, it someone like that someone either took a chance on them and believed in them and gave them that opportunity or helped them along the way. I talk about it
100%.
all the time how these races that we do and the people that I've interviewed do, nothing is done on their own, right? It's all like a group of people or somebody that mentored. And I wrote a book and I talked afterwards about how, man, after I got done, I was thinking there was always somebody, a manager or a mentor along the way that helped me. And it's awesome to hear that same thing with you in the lifting. So these
Yeah,
guys kind of
so
just,
true. So
yeah.
true.
And you're
Yeah.
doing it now, payback, right? That's pretty cool.
100%. And I love it. I absolutely love it. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. Keeps me young.
Yeah. So you started at Peps, you started doing the Olympic weightlifting moves right away. What, if anything now, I'll just ask, like, so if you were a new person to lifting, so I'll tell you quickly, I have a guy that I run with, he was kind of our mentor out here that got me into the ultra distance running.
Hmm.
He's also into lifting now, and as he got older, he's going to be 61 this year, but he had a goal like in 2016 to bench like 315, you
Great
know?
goal.
Yeah. And I asked him on the podcast I did with him, I was like, hey, you've really invested a lot of your time and energy and money into getting a coach for running. I said, have you ever thought about putting that investment into your goals for lifting, you know? Um, so we can talk about what it takes to kind of start if you're interested in starting something like this, the benefits of it. Do you do certain diets? You know, those kinds of questions I think a lot of people are interested in. I'm definitely interested in, and also technique, you know, what kind of a schedule you on, reps, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I keep a pretty basic schedule. 3 days a week lifting now as I got older because the body can only absorb so much. Um, Diet, I eat a lot of red meat when I have a meet coming up. It definitely helps, there's no doubt about it. I drink a ton of water. Um, Stay away from sweets so much, the sugars, and just stay really focused. As much sleep as I can get, at least 8 hours in a night. Naps in
Yep.
between really helps the body. Um, as far as starting out, just keep it simple. Keep it real simple and enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do it. Like you love to run. This is
Yeah.
something that obviously is amazing to you. You're hooked. That's it. You're
Yeah.
hooked,
Yeah.
and it's something you'll always do. And it's same with weightlifting. It's something I enjoy doing. I never look at it as a chore, and it's just fun. It's just as fun as when I started.
So like
It really
for
is.
for running, you know, I'd say to people, all right, you need a good pair of shoes. You know, there's technical clothing now that, you know, instead of cotton this, cotton shorts, it's like technical socks, all that kind of stuff. In the powerlifting world, what if you know, is there a big cost to entry other than going to a gym? What do you gotta, you know what I mean? That just
A pair of a weight belt and a pair of Chuck Taylor sneakers.
yeah, I saw that.
Flat soled, the old style,
Yeah,
serves you well. And just ask a lot of questions and find the right person. That would be my best advice. Um, if anybody would come to me, I'll give them a straight answer right away and just help them along the way. I mean, if someone's not helping you along the way, they're not worth your time. You know what I mean? Because it's always paying it forward, and that's what this sport's all about. My days are here and there, but the young kids coming up today, those are the ones we want to keep the sport moving forward. And it's a great sport. It's given me so much as far as how I talk to people, my work. I have my own business, everything, and my
yeah,
confidence. Everything comes from weightlifting or the people that I'm surrounded by. So it's been unbelievable for me, the whole
yeah.
experience.
So going back to that first meet in like say 85, 86, whatever it was, um, and I just know ancillary stuff, but so there's organizations, I take it.
Yes.
And then I wanted to talk about there's, you know, I don't know what they're called, but if you tell us like so and then there's the difference between the like the tested, natural, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I started out non-tested because I was always clean all the
Yeah.
time. And later on in life, I got involved in the TRT, testosterone replacement, and under my doctor. And I love it. I feel great. A lot of guys do it. I mean, it's the way of the world's changing now, but most of my whole life, I was clean training. Had chances to do it, but never did it. My mother said she'd kill me if she ever, basically. But yeah, I love just lifting. I love prepping for a meet. I love doing the meets, and I don't like to lose. I take it
Yeah.
personal. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I just do. It bothered me. I had a buddy of mine beat me as I got older in life. This was about 3 years ago, and he's 16 years younger than me, and this is my best friend. And he said to me, Mark, it's all right. I said, you're older, the whole thing. I said, you're just making it worse. You're just so I went to my gym and I trained for a year and I passed him, but it took that whole year. And he was a catalyst for me getting over that hump because I just did not want to be beaten by him. I don't care how old you are, how young, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
My job is to go there and beat you. That's what it is. And I think that's a drive that I never knew that I had when I was a kid. But as you get older, you really like, why are you running 100 miles? You have that
Yeah.
drive,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, they have it or they don't, you know. But when you have it, it's big. It's big. It's something you want to do all the time.
You mentioned having your own business, and I feel like the other thing that I talk about with a lot of people is that they take their activity, whether it's weightlifting or running or biking, and they apply that to their jobs. And I
100%.
feel, yeah, and I feel like maybe you could talk a little bit about, what you did in your career wise, but I know you've had your own business for a long time.
I've had it since I was in my late 20s. I'm in construction. Love my job. I just told my wife 10 minutes before I came on, I said, listen, I'm looking forward to Monday, going back to work. I just started taking Fridays off for the summer, which I've never done. I've worked all the time because being self-employed, a day off means no money. So you're always working. But I have a great customer base. And once again, I love it. I really do. I just love what I do. And I think that carries over from weightlifting because I love that. The minute and to this day, when I get home, I have 5 minutes to get dressed real quick, throw on a pair of shorts, a t-shirt, a pair of Chuck Taylors, and I get downstairs. I got people waiting for me in the basement. And I love it. I
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
that's awesome.
Um,
So I got a question. The guy that was 16 years younger than you, what was it like? So was it a three lift meet?
we went up, he was prepping for a meet and we
Okay.
trained together. I met him at a meet 15 years ago. He was in the same weight class as me, 242s at the time. And he was massive. And he was the biggest jerk I ever met in my life. He was, just, but we found out we had something in common. We like to lift heavy. And he's from Maine, about an hour and a half away at the time. And we decided to start training together. That formed a bond that's unbelievable. He is my
Yeah.
best friend to this date. His name is Scott Blanchard, and he is an animal in the gym. But we compete against each other and we go back and forth. He'll win one, I'll win one. And but I don't like to be beaten by him. And he doesn't like it either. But I think that's what makes us so unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a
So
great
what
guy.
did he what event is he better? Did he beat you in? Meaning like if there was a total three lifts and you were at whatever, 2,000 pounds, what one did you have to
He
practice or get
squatted
better at?
903,
Oh
not
wow.
in the same meet. This was another meet. And he benched 500 and something, and his deadlift is a little less than mine. He's in the 690 range, but he's 15 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So age once again comes into a factor. We're about the same weight. Um, so we go back and forth. As many as when we compete against each other, he's won one, I've won one, he's won one. It goes back and forth. And that adds to the friendship. It really does. You know.
Let me talk more, go back a little bit in terms of, I lift weights. I started lifting when I was same kind of deal. Me and Mike had the cement weights from Sears in the basement,
Yeah.
you know, um, and it was always so crazy because like the bench that we had was like this wide
So
and the
narrow.
bars were like this wide. So all that weight, it was always,
Yeah.
going like this. But
Yeah.
then we had a similar thing where I bought a squat rack and then I bought all the Olympic weights. We were going to Nautilus or whatever, and then we started doing the lifting at our house in the basement.
Yeah.
So when we did it, it wasn't like anybody taught us technique, but there has to be like running technique. There has to be some technique to benching, to squatting, and to deadlifting. Maybe talk a little bit about the bench technique
The
and how did
bench,
you learn it?
the bench technique I learned because everyone's body style is different. I'm more of an athletic build. I don't really fit the powerlifting build, which is heavy in front, more barrel chested, big legs. I do not have the biggest legs. I have great tendon strength, which is a major plus in powerlifting. Never judge a book by its cover. because I've seen massive guys that are not strong and medium to build guys that are just freaky strong.
Yeah.
So once again, I never judge a book by its cover at any meet. Never take anyone for granted. Um, as far as bench, because I have longer arms, I like to pendulum my bench. I like to bench lower on my chest and push everything back at an angle. If I go
Okay.
straight up, it's almost half the distance more or a quarter of the distance more. I have to move that bar. And if I can keep that weight by pushing my elbows out over my triceps, I'm in a much better position to bench. Where a barrel chested would hit a little lower on the pec, still on the pec. I'm more on the bellius range, on the top of the belly, and he'll push straight up because the arms are shorter. Everyone has a different technique. You know,
Yeah. Remember there was like this controversy for a while where it was like false grip over the bar grip with your
yes,
hand,
yeah.
right? Like I don't know, do you do I mean
I
false
do.
grip?
I do thumbs over. I do not do false grip. I do
Yeah.
regular grip.
Yeah.
Too many injuries. Only once have I had it fall on my rib cage. And I was fine, but bruised up for a little bit, but learned pretty quickly. That's not the way you want to do it. You know.
So you and I were talking last week and I was talking about how I listened to a podcast and there was a guy on there that trained like Russian Olympic athletes way back. And he had mentioned, which was kind of like a light one off for me, about how there's a difference between building muscle and getting stronger or building
Mhm.
strength.
Right.
So I think if I'm wanting to know, okay, like when you go and train, you're training 3 days a week. Do you do specific sets, number of reps, that kind of thing? And how and what are they?
Well, there's meat training and there's just regular training.
Yeah.
You're not going to go crazy 12 months out of the year and then have a meet coming up in a month because you're not going to have any gas in the tank. You work with different bars. So many bars out there that hit different areas. Right now, the way I train people is the way I trained back in the day. Various bars, a lot of band work, absolute ton of band work. So for instance, if you're a 200-pound squatter and you want to be a 300-pound squatter, you have to do weight plus bands, but it has to equal 100 more in band tension because you lose the band at the bottom of the squat. And it's a great way to develop anyone. I'm a huge proponent of bands. I was trained on bands. It took my squat to the next level, like unbelievable. And I was so against it because I would drive to this gym an hour and 25 every day. And I'd call my wife on the way home. And I was at this new gym in Wakefield called Olympia Barbell. And this owner, Steve Smith, took me under his wing. Bands, bands, bands. All I saw was bands, all different tensions. They were very heavy, very, very heavy. What I didn't realize is once I took regular weight without the bands, how strong I was.
Wow.
Like it was incredible. It was like, you know, just absolutely insane. I think the first time I took a 745 squat in the gym with no knee wraps, and it went right up after using bands for a 10-week period. And the bands could be 300 pounds in band tension in weight, 400 pounds in band tension in weight. He varied it, but I was always looking at the weight like it's not a lot of weight here. This is only 400 pounds. What am I doing? What I
Yeah.
didn't realize is how much band tension was on.
So is
And
it what is it about the bands? I mean, I know like about plyometrics, and plyometrics is obviously maybe not the same thing as this, but I feel like it's the is it the constant tension? Like
a
what is it
constant
that
tension. It wants to pull you right through the floor. So, in other words, one of the bands just on both sides would equal 200 pounds of band tension. So, the average bar, let's say, is 65 pounds. So, already you have 265 pounds unracking without even having a weight on. And it's eye opening because it keeps you in a groove. It's either going to pull you back, it's going to pull you forward, it's going to pull you through the floor. So you got to really have that weight on the hips and also on your hamstrings and quads ready to go, and it taught me so much, it's crazy.
And and do you use the bands for the bench and the deadlift too?
Everything,
Everything.
everything.
Wow.
I apply it to everything, and it really, really put me to the next level. I would say my squat jumped at least 150 pounds with bands. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
So let me ask you this because I just thought of this, but I feel like almost every gym now there's a platform, for people to do deadlifts.
Hmm.
What's your thought on I've seen it a million times where they'll deadlift and just like drop the weights. Like,
Not a big fan because you get called in a meet, so we have to put the weight down with ease.
okay.
And I remember my son was a world class puller at 148. He deadlifted 555, and he dropped the weight. And I got mad. I said, Nicholas, what are you doing? I said, you
Yeah.
can't do that. And he came back. I made him retake the weight, even though it went up real easy. Made him retake it. He got it easy and then moved on to his next lift. But he learned an important lesson. He was so excited, he dropped the weight. And that's just not what we do in the sport. Put it down with ease, controlled. They'll give you a red light for it if you drop the weight, period, or you're out of the meet. So there are rules,
Yeah.
like anything.
Yeah. So going back to the bodybuilding versus the strength training or trying to get stronger or just to maintain strength, when you're talking about the three lifts, like I got a pretty bad back. I've got scoliosis in my lumbar, and it's hard for me to do bar deadlifts. But
Mm-hmm.
what changed for me was that little, what's that one like you step in that little cage thing and you lift it with your
Trap
you
bar.
can what's it called?
The trap bar.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like it doesn't hurt my back as much as doing the bar.
Yeah. Because you're in a better position. Your hands are by your side. So
Yeah.
you're in a better position um, for your back a lot, because when you're deadlifting, as we get older, it's tough to get down to the bar. And if you're leaning forward, that is not a good position we want to be in, of course,
Yeah.
That's why a lot of guys nowadays, they call it hook grip. It's double overhand. If you can hang on to the bar, you're not rotating your bicep or your shoulder, which is a big deal. Um, I can get to the bar a lot easier with hook grip, but I can only hold it up to 500 and something pounds because the hands will give way. Some guys can really wrap that thumb under the first finger and really hold on tight in amazing weights. But for me, I still go to the old over under, and it's worked well. It's worked well.
So
But the trap bar,
one way, one the other way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And everyone's different. There's no exact way whether you're right, come in or left the other one or vice versa. It's whatever you feel. So once
So
again, we're all built different.
yeah, definitely. I mean, my arms are super long, and I've been moving around my where my grip position is. I have pretty bad shoulders from football, like dislocating them and everything like that. But I've been doing more warm-ups with I'll do like shoulder presses first and then get on the flat. But
Okay.
I mean, I don't know why I started thinking I'm gonna start to try to bench more, but
That's
but here's
good.
my
That's
question.
good.
So my friend John Byrne, he's trying to I think he's gonna try to bench like 325 or 315 again.
Okay.
And Evan Kilstrom, who was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, he played football offensive line at Iowa State and like he benched, 405 recently. What kind of maybe advice could you give somebody that's starting out that might want to do like a heavy bench or try to max rep for that? Like how many sets, how many reps, that kind of thing versus
Keep it real basic. So in other words, a 405 bencher, he's going to start out with his warm up with the bar. Then he's going to go to 135, however many reps, not a lot. For me, I single from there right to two and a quarter, 315, maybe a 365 in between, and then right to the 405. That's it. And then you're done. No wasted energy. No wasted energy. When we go into a meet, if we're going to bench, we've already done the squat, so you're pretty tired. And I like to keep my opener probably about 75 pounds away from my max. That's a good rule of thumb for me personally. Something that I can get all day long for 3 reps, whether I'm sick, anything, head cold, doesn't matter. I can go in, I can do it. You always want to show the judges you get your openers real clean.
And you mentioned it, and I don't know. So there's an order. So like a triathlon, you swim, then you bike, then you run. What is the order of the powerlifting?
Squat, bench, then deadlift.
Squat, bench, deadlift. Okay,
Yeah.
so squat probably would be, I would say, the one that takes the biggest toll on you.
The deadlift is where the meat is won. They always say when the bar comes off the floor, that's where you really see who's the difference, because you use so much energy, just like a triathlon.
Yeah.
You're using all this energy, and then you have this last event. You got to get through it. It's crazy how much calories we burn and how much, just lifting now, we burn about, in a 45 to 55-minute session, we burn about 550 calories, 500 on average. So just lift it.
Just lifting. Yeah.
Yeah, just lift it.
So remind me again here on I have the total 2000 when you were like 55 or 54. And what were what was your squat, bench,
My squat
deadlift?
was 811, and that's the easiest I ever squatted, 811. I'm always very conservative with my lifts. Probably had a lot more, well, a lot more, I say 30 plus pounds, but that was my third attempt. You have 3 attempts on all lifts. I like to open up light. So to get to that 811, I opened up with a 740 and then took a jump in between there, probably 785, and then jumped to 811 and got that. I got all 3. The bench we moved on to, and I finished with a 476, 477, once again, kilos, I'm not positive. And then finished off with my best pull ever at 711. And this was in Canada, up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in the winter. And it was cold. It was very cold, but great time, great experience. We like to travel. We like to go to places that we haven't been before.
Yeah.
My days were long time ago, where I did the local meets, which were unbelievable, unbelievable. And then we moved on to traveling all across this great country, and just enjoying it. Just so many great memories, Joe.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like same thing, there's races now everywhere. And there's local races and then there's now ultras. I feel like there's an ultra every weekend all across the country. You can go
Yeah.
onto this website and look, okay, 100-mile radius from your house, 200-mile radius, blah blah blah. But it's pretty cool. Um, so we talked a little bit of the bench technique, and I think you do like your squat. Isn't there different kinds of squats, like style?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I learned on the box squatting. It's like a duck putting his butt back into a pail of water. And when I met Steve Smith out of Olympia Barbell in Wakefield, Mass, he changed everything in my squat form. He opened up my legs. I'm an extremely wide squatter, short of the distance, but it took me a long time to gain hip strength. Never having my knees roll forward, which was very hard. I mean, anyone that tries it, I started off with a broomstick and learning not to push my knees forward, always keeping my shins straight up and down. And that just really changed everything. It was a huge catalyst to moving my squat forward, that and bands, but the box will always make you hit depth because you get used to hitting something. You go down, you stop almost for a quick millisecond and come up. And you're trained to do that. That's all it is. That's all a box is. It's an aid to find out exactly where your depth is at all times. So it's very, very rare that I get called for depth because of the box training.
Wouldn't you have to break like a certain angle on
You do.
on the
Yes. Every
bend?
organization from the top of the thigh to the middle of the hip, the crease of the hip. So everyone is different. There's 32 organizations out there. And there is an organization, I'm sure like you have a something on a website for ultra marathoners, runners, where your ranking is. It's the same thing with open powerlifting. You can go on and they take every single meet, sanctioned meet, and they put it in a database and up pops your name. And it's great. It's great. If you're into that, you can follow yourself and do that whole thing. You know, it's good.
So let's talk a little more about, so you got the different kind of squats. I guess what, like a sumo squat versus like a regular squat, and then there's like, I mean, even the gym that I go to, there's they I did like we had a training session, like you got to like four training sessions with the trainer, and they showed you like, okay, you can have your feet pointing out. Then there was ones where you have them together and you're closer together, and like a hack squat or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. It's all how you built once again. I'm 5'8", I'm 227, athletic build, not really, like I said, the powerlifting form. Everybody's got bigger legs than me. Everybody's got bigger chest, bigger arms. Tendon strength, once again, is a major factor. But because of the way I'm built, I like a wider squat. I like probably my feet medium to a little bit out. So I contact more of my hamstrings when I sit back. And that really helps me. Some guys like a scissor, like if they're built really big in the thighs, they'll widen their legs and push their feet all the way out and push their knees out real hard. And that's like a scissor lift, goes up and down. That works really well for them. We're all built different. Some guys like a narrow stance, they just like to be compact, like A to B and go up. So there's no real exact science to it. Whatever works best for your body, you know.
I think the cool part is the weight's the weight, right?
Waist
It's
to weight.
the weight's the weight. It's 400 pounds is 400 pounds for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. It really is, you know.
And then the deadlift, which there's obviously technique for squats, tech bench, tech for deadlift. It has to be. I mean,
Here's the
like I
most
said,
yeah. Here's the most craziest thing. You pull a bar off the ground. It's the most technical lift. How
yeah,
is that? It's crazy. All you do is pull a bar off the ground. You stand up, and if you're over a hair, it doesn't come up. If you're back a hair, you're gonna fall backwards. It's just so technical. It's finding that right groove. I'm lucky to be good at both sides. The sumo with legs out wide and conventional, they call it, with your legs together. There's pros and cons to both. I am not, hey, you get the bar off the ground any way possible, the way you're built, good for you. That's what I believe in. Um, there's people out there that say sumo is cheating because your legs are wide, you're shortening the distance, blah, blah, blah. It puts so much emphasis on your hips, it's ridiculous. The pressure is unreal. And if your belt's too tight, it binds up your diaphragm. You can't even breathe. It's just a crazy lift. It really is, but a lot of fun. Once again, I know I'm not making it sound fun, but it is.
yeah. No, I think it's fun. I mean, I like to do it. I wish I could get. I wish I had maybe stuck with it a little bit more when I was younger in terms of just those three lifts, because I feel like I was saying earlier, bodybuilding and trying to build muscle versus getting stronger. I mean, I always, if I could rewind to go back and say, all right, I'm going to train to be a football player. I didn't train to be a runner, but I mean, I would have done it so much different. Like, I mean, we were
Yeah,
trying to bench, like all this weight, and I would have spent so much more time on squats,
yeah,
lunges, those kinds of exercises that would have helped in football versus,
so
how many times are you going to be on the ground pushing somebody? I mean,
right,
I
exactly,
don't know.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's so true.
So let's talk a little more about the like the what how many total records do you have? And then what I want to get to is like in relation to, okay, you're 54, you did the three combined 2,000 pounds. What is let's just say like the Olympic people, what are they doing in terms of trying to get a comparison? Because I mean you're lifting a lot of weight.
Totally different lifting, Olympic lifting,
Okay.
where they lift overhead. Such a different, challenging, very challenging. Everything, whether we're running, lifting, it's just a great way of exercise.
Yeah.
And once, like we said, once you're hooked, you're hooked. That's it. Um, but
And
powerlifting,
maybe not the Olympic, but just say maybe like the world's strongest men guys that do squats and deadlifts and bench.
yeah,
How
yeah,
much of those guys?
those are massive men.
Yeah.
They're running in the 400 to 450 range. Um, that's a specialty once again, like powerlifting. I think strongmen is more known because it's on TV. They got a lot of attention, and it's great. It's great. They allow deadlift with straps, which add another 100+ pounds to your deadlift because your arms are the first thing to go. Usually, the hands. When you get up to these the weights, the poundages, they just open up. The hands open up. Usually before the back gives out or the legs give out. So when you add straps, it is a massive difference.
So when you did your thing, you couldn't use
No,
straps. It's just your
no,
hands. Oh
just my hand.
wow.
Yeah,
Holy crap.
just over.
Wow. So
Yeah,
like a guy like a Brian Shaw, I just saw that he was on like something, but that guy's like 6'8", like 400 and something pounds.
incredible lifter,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Yeah, and a great guy.
Yeah.
So it's just
But
amazing.
how much of those guys squatting and deadlifting? Like that guy Bjorn, the mountain guy there, what's his name?
I think
That
he
guy
took
that's
a
from like Norway or
thousand. I think he took 1,004 for a squat, and I'm not sure if it was turned down. I don't think it should have been turned down in the videos, but he is a strong man. Very, very strong. Um,
you squatted what, 800?
yes, 800, 8011, 811 is my best.
Okay, so think about that, right? So you're only a couple hundred pounds away from him, where I'm like 700 pounds away from you.
Everyone's built different,
I know, but I'm
everyone.
just saying from a perspective of people that's just to understand, like, okay, I think the heaviest I ever squatted, and it was like at Framingham State, it was like 375,
Okay.
and I was like 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
Today I'd probably be in the hospital if I had to try to move
I
375.
know.
And
No,
that's like half of what you squatted at 54 years old.
yeah, I mean, it was, I guess I didn't think about it that much, at the time. I mean, now as I get older, I was like, oh boy, I got lucky on that one. You don't really think about it because, the way I was training with bands, once again, was a lot different. It was a lot of band tension and what took me to get there. And, like right now, I would probably say I could still be into the 700s plus, but it would take a while to get back to that level. Now my average squat is 450 to 500 for doubles, just nice and easy and just enjoying it. Still, but I vary the bars a lot more than I did before. And that's the one thing that is important to me at a meet is use the bars that they're going to use at the meet. In other words, if they use a 65-pound bar, that's the bar you're going to use. And I'm
Yep.
going to use that all through. So when I go to the meet, it doesn't feel different. It's like you putting on a different pair of shoes. Your
Yeah.
shoes is everything. The
Yeah.
socks, the
Yeah.
shorts that you have, the undergarment for non-chafing, everything.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
I'm really superstitious. I will
No,
just make sure I am totally prepped for it.
I remember, at Nautilus, there was also the diameter of the bar was different in some places, right? So
Awesome
like
point. Exactly.
if
Yeah.
you get like this, I remember like I don't remember what gym it was at, but it was like, oh my God, what is this bar? It probably weighed 65, I don't know. But
Yeah.
then there was ones that were skinnier, but we always thought they were 45 pounds, right? Like I think isn't that the normal Olympic bar?
Yes, yeah, but what happens when you go to these powerlifting meets or strongman meets? They have to be able to spot it on the side. So these bars are extra long. They're 8 feet bars, and they're called a bulldog. West Side Barbell put them out back in the day, and they have very, very little flex in it, which is so important in a squat. You don't want the bar to be flexing or the weight to
Yeah.
be, it'll really throw you off. And that's what I train with, Same thing with the bench, a thicker bar than our regular 45s that we used back in the day. And the deadlift is a thinner bar and it has more whip to it. Each meet is different depending on the whip of the bar. Sometimes it'll have a little more bend and it'll take a second for that weight to get off the floor.
The ground.
But you have to
Wow.
be ready for it because it flexes. You
Yeah.
know?
Wow. Hey, let me ask you this. So you're at Pep's gym in the 80s, and I got to Framingham State in 88. I should have been there earlier, but I didn't get in. But there was a kid I ended up being roommates. We lived in a house downtown Framingham, and his name was Noel Furtazio. Does that name ring a bell?
No.
He was probably, I think he had all kinds of records for lifting because he was little. Like he was short and he
Yeah.
probably weighed like your son, like 140 something pounds. Maybe
Yeah.
he was like 135 or 36 and he squatted like, 480 or something. It was ridiculous back then.
Incredible. Yeah.
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 And I remember there was always that like measuring stick of people saying, double your body weight bench or double your body weight squat or something like that. And I've been thinking about that lately, going, wait a second, if you do a air squat with no weight, isn't that your body weight already?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're also moving your weight plus the weight you put on the bar.
Yeah. So your body weight squat would be your body weight. In other words, if you're 195 pounds, you're squatting 195 on your back. And then after that, keep going, and the real good lifters can get incredible. Once you get body type is everything in powerlifting, you know. It's
So take a
huge.
guy like Mike, my brother Mike. How would you describe him as a power lifter? He did all right.
Great deadlifter. Would run
Really?
up to the bar, would run up to the bar. Back then we had the snap pants, the basketball pants. And he would run up to the bar, unsnap his pants real quick, run up to the bar and pull the bar and walk back. Run back. It was that quick. And we couldn't believe it because that was Michael. Um, Good squatter, good bencher, just loved it back in the day and had a lot of fun. Brian Hughes was also involved back in the day. I think Brian had a 500 plus deadlift. Um, yeah, a lot of good memories, a lot of good
Yeah.
memories.
Oh yeah. I think it's amazing that you've done it for this long, right? I mean, I think about running and I started running 1998. So whatever that is, 20 something, almost 30 years.
So I'm going to turn the tables on you. How did you get into running?
So that's a great question. So, you know, I asked this on a couple of podcasts about like, played football, but running it wasn't like distance, right? It was sprints, right? We would do this thing called gassers where you'd run 50 and 50 back, and we'd do like 10 of those. And then we'd try to get a bit of 40 time. So we were running, 40s, but we never ran miles or anything like that. But so I graduated, I was working, I moved to Philly. So I was down there and I was just a piece of shit. Like I weighed like 215, but I was lifting. I was big. Like I just always would get bulky up top, right? If I started lifting. And I was like, man, there's this Chase corporate challenge and it was I think it was in Stamford, Connecticut. So it was like back then Chase Bank used to do this thing. It was like a 5 mile race.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to try to do it. And it humbled me so much because I literally couldn't even run a mile. Like when I first started to run, there was like a trail where I lived and it was like a mile and I couldn't even make it without walking one
Wow.
time. And that was 1996 or 7.
Okay.
And then I was like, it's something just switched on. I was like, that sucked, but I'm never gonna let that happen again. And I just started, and I would do a mile walk, and I started doing like 2 miles, and I'd walk, and then
Wow.
yeah, just it's steamrolled from there. And then I got hooked into it as kind of like you guys, like where you go, all right, I bench 185, I want to get 195,
Mhm.
right? I ran a 5K in 35 minutes, I want to break 30. And then it was like I want to break 20,
Yeah.
and I broke 20 probably only maybe 4 or 5 times. But that's like a 6:15 mile. And I wasn't that fast
Wow.
either. Like I'm not fast. These guys, some of the guys I run with are, they can run sub 5 minute mile. So
Did those guys make you better?
that's what I was going to tell you is then once I started doing the training on my own, where the game changer was I joined a group. It was Team and Training back in Boston. When I moved back to Boston in 98, I joined Team and Training and went on a program. did group runs, started running with other people,
Mhm.
and whether they were faster or slower, it made me a better runner overall. And I swear by the group runs for sure. If you're a solo anything, go find a partner
Yeah,
because they'll just make you better. Accountability, there's all kinds of good
yeah,
motivation.
yeah,
It's funny you said it in the beginning about your buddy there that you've met and now you're big, real good friends with him and you didn't want him to beat you. And we have these group runs and I'm not hoping anybody gets hurt or hoping anybody doesn't run well,
of course.
but you're really competitive and you want to be in that, you don't want to get beat during these training runs even. It
Right.
just becomes like a
Right.
competitive thing. I think it's pretty cool to see, but the group is a huge thing.
What I tell my lifters right now is chip away every day. I don't care if it's a pound, a quarter of a pound, whatever it is. If there's a guy in front of you, chip away. And what you just talked about is what I remember when I was younger at Olympia Barbell. There was a great lifter there, and he was always ahead of me. And they put me in his group, and it was only a group of three. And I just chipped away all the time. And one day I caught him. And there was a huge age difference at the time, too. Once again, it was 15, 20 years age difference. I was older. And I knew I had him that day. But you need something to go after. You
Yeah.
need that drive. And that's what I tell the lifters that come through the door now. We have a police chief that's here, and there's a guy in the neighborhood that comes in and works out. And he's like, how do I catch him? Chip away
Yeah.
each day. I said, you might not get that chip every day, but if you come in saying, hey, I got a little today, you will soon pass him. And that's the goal in a friendly competition. Like you said, you never wish injury anything, but that would be my best advice for a lifter. Find somebody that you relate to and just chip away. Just
Yeah.
keep pushing. And any good coach will tell you, I want I want them to all beat me. I want them to go blow by me because that means you did your job. You're
Yeah.
good at your job.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll share a quick story about the training. So, in helping people, when I had two friends that last year wanted to qualify for Boston. And so Austin Chesney and this guy, Kurt Johnston, they both wanted to try to qualify. They had to run a sub 320. Okay. And I think Austin is 48, Kurt was 48 or 49.
Wow.
So now we're not talking about young spring chickens here. We're
No
talking
shit.
about,
Yeah.
like, right. And so as their training progressed, they just kept getting faster on the longer runs. And I was just not like I could hang with them for a 10 miler, a 4 or 5 miler if they were going to run just I'll call it a maintenance run during the week. But these guys pushed each other the whole year. Okay. And then, so it came down to the race day and Kurt ended up running a 318. So he got this is how crazy this story was though. So 2 weeks before the Quad City Marathon is the marathon they ran. 2 weeks before, Boston changed the qualifying times for 2026. Okay, so he basically qualified for 2025,
Oh,
but the race took place in September, and it's way too late to get into Boston at that point
okay.
in 2025. So he has a Boston qualifying time at 48 years old, and it's just amazing to think about
Wow.
running that fast at that age. And now he's trying to get faster, and he is. And it's going to the it's doing the work, kind of, I would say, like, I hate deadlifting and I hate squatting, but I feel like if you want to get better, you got to do it, right? So the speed
100%.
work for these guys is the worst because if you used to running 10 or 15 miles to go to a track and run 800s, ugh, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. Wow.
Let's talk a little bit about, I would say, bodybuilding, and maybe I'm just naive, but it feels like bodybuilding is kind of comes down to 90 something percent diet, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah,
was and I didn't tell you this, but in 1986, 85, I was Mr. Massachusetts. I love bodybuilding.
I didn't know
Um,
that.
Yeah, I was 100 and whopping 186 pounds. I won the overall NPC Classic in Boston, Massachusetts, and went on to national show in New Jersey, placed high there, and then turned pro in Las Vegas. And I did not enjoy it. It wasn't for me. It's showing your body, your muscles. Once again, athletic fit. Never had the really big overall. Had good abs, pretty good
Yeah.
abs, but I just didn't enjoy it. There was no camaraderie. There was no, there's it wasn't fun for me. It wasn't fun at all. I went back to powerlifting, which was always put the size on me, and had a great group of guys to train with. And but bodybuilding, you show your muscles, light weights, doesn't have to be heavy, a lot of reps. Diet is massive. I used to carry my chicken with me, everywhere, and my lake trout and water. I was a dud at parties. It was
Yeah.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was an experience.
It's
Um,
funny you mentioned the camaraderie because I feel like when I switched from marathon running, which is very stressful, like it's almost like I'll say comparable to bodybuilding, whereas it's all about pace and it's all about trying to get faster. It's all about speed work and doing those 800s and doing mile repeats. And it's just hard, hard work to kind of maintain that for a long time. When I switched over to the ultra world, the people in the ultra running world are just like the best people in the world and they want you to succeed. Like if
yeah.
I'm in a race and I'll call it a race, but it's an event for me. I'm not thinking about I don't think I'm going to win these things. I mean, but they are trying to help you and they're always cheering you on. And the crowd, I mean, it's just an amazingly like total shift
Yeah.
from the marathon runners that are, I wouldn't say more egotistical, but they all are about time. Like I got to run a 212, I have to run a 320 versus go run 50 miles and see if you can survive, right?
So for you, it's a challenge. It,
Oh
it
yeah.
it's a big, big challenge, and something that you feel you wouldn't do it unless you feel you could do it. And but you got to work your tail off to do it.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
It,
that's the
you know,
part that people don't see is the the 4 in the morning wake up, the 10 miler during the week when you're by yourself. If you can't usually get a lot of people to run at 4:30 in the morning with you, but uh
so let me ask you a question. If you have a race coming up, do you ever miss
a run during the week or
training?
just a workout or
Anything? You have a
yeah.
scheduled
Yeah, yeah.
race
I'll
coming up.
Yep. So great question. If I wanted to qualify for a marathon, then I wouldn't miss anything.
There
And
you go.
I would eat I would not miss anything because I would feel mentally if I do, the chances of me succeeding down that road are going to be less, I'll say. And
That's
an
the common
ultra,
thread. You just said the common thread in
which
everything.
was, yeah,
In everything. It,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if we're playing badminton, the world champion badminton. You don't miss. You
yeah,
have that drive. That's the common thread.
yeah. But for an ultra, here's the thing. Most of the time, if I'm running a 50K, so like 32 miles or a 50 miler, you know, the training is a lot longer and it's not as, I would say, is intense, but I would never miss a long run.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
I
if the
agree.
maintenance stuff during the week was just to run and, to keep fit, the long run was one that you can't miss. And and I would say it's probably the same. And I remember doing this when we were lifting and benching and trying to max out. There's a taper, right? Like you said, you're not going to try to train 12 months and go all out one
Right.
rep max all the time. Similar to long runs is, you'll build up, you'll 8, 12, 15, 18, 20, 10,
Right.
12, 15, 20, like, or 3 30-mile runs in a month and then taper and then go.
Great, great, great point. A lot the same how I train in powerlifting. I take my last squat 5 weeks out from a meet religiously. all the time. My last heavy squat will be done. So I have gas in the tank because it takes so much out of you. Okay. And you got to be there for that one day, no different than race day. The bench, I take it 3.5 weeks out, always the same. Deadlift a month out. So it's pretty simple formula. You get to
Yeah.
where you need to be, and then you shut it down. And when I say, I'll take a 225 squat to a 315 after that month that I've shut it down, that's it, because I'm ready. I'm eating, I'm fueling myself. I'm putting as much red meat into my body as I can. I'm drinking as much fluids as I can. And you're just mentally prepared, just like you have to be.
Oh yeah.
You have to go through your checklist. But the reason I asked you that question is because if I miss, I will not. I will not succeed meet day because the mind is everything. It just controls everything, you
Yeah.
know. So
So maybe talk a little bit about, and I've seen some videos, and I know Mike used to talk about you guys started training kids or people. When did you get into becoming the mentor for guys and gals?
whenever anyone would ask, I would
Really?
never not turn anyone away. I just enjoy it so much. Um, I have a boy right now. Boy, he's 25 years old on the autism spectrum. He is the nicest kid in the world. He's 150 pounds, and he just squatted 2 weeks ago, 300 pounds. He was so excited. Bench, we fit it in when we can. He only comes once a week because he's a full-time job. And I am just enjoying the hell out of this kid. It is a lot of fun. The last kid I trained, a high schooler, 240 pounds, went on to be a state wrestling champ. Just a great kid. He would drive his moped here in the winter. It's very cold here, by the way. And snow on the ground, leather jacket, leather gloves, helmet. And one day he was late. And I said, do not ever be late. That's my
Yeah.
one rule.
Right.
Do not be late. And I probably didn't say it that kindly, but my wife yelled at me after and said, listen, you got to go a little easier than when you were growing up, because I could never
Yeah.
be late back in the day. If I'm taking up someone's time, and it carries over to my work,
Yeah.
never late, always be on time, be 10, 15 minutes early. I pass this on to the kids. My
Yeah.
oldest is 33 now, and our middle guy is 27. And I don't know if I started over in life, and I have a 14-year-old, so she keeps me very young, and I love it. I love it. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny you said about the time. What's crazy is there was a talk about a mentor. There was a guy that I worked for in Philadelphia. His name was Rick Heater, and he taught me everything about sales. And he was on Lombardi time. And Lombardi time is if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on
Okay.
time, you're late. And I just remember carrying that all the way through till today, where I'm never late for anything. And my kids, Trinity, my oldest, she's 21 now, and Erin is 18, going to be a freshman in college in a month.
Wow.
And they are the same. They like, how they absorb everything. You
Yes.
don't have to tell them anything. You just show by example, right? Like being late is not good.
Yeah.
And what's fucked up about it, I'm sorry to swear, but people that the company I worked for would make fun of me for being early. And I
Really.
was like, that's so messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at
crazy.
look at your brother. He gets to work half hour early, sets up everything. That's
Yeah.
how he's always been. A to
So,
B, A to
yeah.
B.
So for the people that don't know, my brother Mike, I talked a lot about him in my book, and I'll have to send you a link to my book, but it's
I
funny.
love it.
So many stories about Mike, but one of them that's funny is being early, and and when he worked at Saturn, he, I don't remember what year it was, but he didn't drink coffee. Okay. And these guys would always get in to work after him, like a half hour later, and they'd say, "We're gonna go get coffee," and he'd say, "Okay, get me one." But he didn't drink coffee. Guess what he did? He would make
But
them get him one, and he'd throw it away.
oh my gosh, that's
He would just
Michael.
look at them, take the
Yeah.
coffee, and just be like, "Don't," and throw it in the trash
Yeah.
because they were
So
late.
Michael is he's godfather to Savannah. And
Okay.
he's godfather to probably 7 other kids out there. I remember talking to Brian Hughes one time, and that's how your brother is. He's just salt of the earth, he
Yeah,
always has been. One of the toughest guys I know, period.
yeah. He, him and some battles growing up, and I mean, I'm not big, and he's bigger, and the fights were he would never punch me in the face, but he would just like wrestle me and like smash my head off the wall or the ground or something like that, right? And so I became pretty good at taking a beating throughout my young adult life. And one time, another quick funny story about Mike. He, I think he had just got out of the Marine Corps and he was going to get like his assignment to go wherever, and he was home and he was in the basement and him and I got in a fight about an argument about something stupid and he started chasing me around the basement
Oh my
and
God.
I was like I was bigger, I was like 195. He graduated the Marines, he was like 180.
Yeah.
And I mean, I swear to God, when we drove up to see him, we drove down to South Carolina to watch the graduation, which was amazing. But I didn't even recognize him.
Yeah.
His face was like, he was 225, 230, and he went in, he came out 180. But anyway, he chased me in the basement and he was so mad. Like I ran out the bulkhead and he was behind me and he punched the door frame of the one of the doors in the basement, like right through the door
Oh my
frame.
God. That sounds like Michael,
Yeah.
but he's mellowed now.
Yes, he is. We went on a cruise last when was that? Last January together, and it was really cool to get to spend. I don't think I spent 7 days with him since I was like 18.
Yeah. Isn't
It
it
was
funny
really
how
cool.
isn't it funny how things change as we get older? You appreciate
Some
it.
do. Some things change, some don't.
Yeah. But you appreciate it more.
Oh yeah,
Spending
hell
time with
yeah.
your brother is everything.
Absolutely.
So
So I was getting down this road of the bodybuilding, which is a totally different mindset and diet and exercise, all that kind of stuff versus the powerlifting. And I'm not making a parallel. Maybe there is one, but like I was saying, when I went from marathon timing to ultra, the mentality of it changed, less stressful. And then as far as the dieting goes, like if I wanted to run a fast marathon, I had to be like 175 pounds, right? I'm
mhm.
like 6 feet tall, 170, 175. When I started doing ultras, I got a little bit heavier because I started eating whatever I wanted. Like I
Okay.
could, because we're running 20 miles a weekend at a long run and you're burning, ridiculous amount of calories all week. And it just mentally, it released like this stress. And then it became like so much fun, more fun.
Yeah, because you don't have to diet.
Yeah, that not
It's
that not
great.
that the diet was the big thing, but it was also just that stress of trying to run these paces all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like for the bodybuilder, when you went from a bodybuilder to a power lifter, I mean, the diet had to have
The
changed.
diet was everything in
Yeah,
bodybuilding. You
yeah,
had to carry your meals everywhere, in a cooler, and you could never eat out. Your salt intake, any type of added salt would just absolutely kill you. No alcohol. Um, yeah, it was a complete change. Powerlifting, I'd say the last 15 plus years, my weight's still the same, 227, 229, but I compete in the 242 because I don't want to lose that 7 to 9 pounds. I'm older. Who wants to
yeah.
do that? I don't want
It's
to do it. I'd
right.
rather lose the points at the 242 and just compete with those guys, even though I'm really probably I could make the 220s easy. But who wants to do that? That's no fun. We're in it for the fun as we get older and enjoy it so much. And yeah, as far as diet, they're complete opposite. Powerlifting, just eat for strength. Bodybuilding, eat for looks.
Yeah,
That would be the best,
yeah.
analogy.
And what made you decide? Was it super like was there events that changed you? Like you said, you just got fed up with it. You didn't want to do it no more. It was too
I found
stressful.
it when I went to Vegas. Only my wife could be back there with me. You had to put oil on your body to highlight your muscles, and I just found it. Everybody was against each other. It was just it was not, in powerlifting. You pull for everybody. Everybody, you're there for the same thing. You meet so many friends, contacts after that. Today, everyone's on social media, so now whatever it would be. Hey, I'm on Instagram, follow me here, do this. It's great. You meet so many great people in powerlifting, and not that bodybuilding, but back in the day, I didn't enjoy it as a young man as much as I did powerlifting. I love moving heavy things. Once again, it was probably because I wasn't the biggest guy. I never was the biggest guy, but I can lift a lot of weight. Why? I don't know. But once again, somebody took the time with me. Why are you so drawn to
Yeah.
ultra marathon? It's a challenge. You want to see what your body can do, you know?
I think it's similar, I would say, to powerlifting is the running. It's a solo event.
Yeah.
It's all up to you. So
Yes.
you're going to get out what you put into it from a training perspective.
Yeah.
And then come race day, it's the only you it's the truest form of control of your own destiny, I'll say.
You hold
Right?
all the
Because
cards.
it's all you,
Yeah.
right? There's support, 100%. There's
Oh, yeah.
support, there's moral support, there's all that camaraderie support, but at the end of the day, you're the one running and you're the one lifting, right? So there's no one going to squat the weight for you or bench the weight for you.
No.
And it's not a team. I think that's what kind of maybe draws or drew me to more towards it was where I worked in corporate America. I had basically little to no control over much,
Yeah.
when you're working for a company that has 70,000 or 80,000 employees versus I can put together a training plan. It's all me. If I follow it, I'm going to set goals and I think I can get there and achieve them.
Right. Right. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
All right. So I know we're over here an hour. I don't want to take way too much more of your time, but maybe you can maybe summarize or sum up, like go from, you went from someone took you under their wing, you went,
Hmm.
became, you have all these world records in powerlifting, which are amazing. And now you're training other people, which is really, really cool. We talked about there's kind of a low barrier to entry, right? Other than having to go and buy the weights yourself, put a gym in your
Right.
basement or your
Right.
garage, or join a gym. But maybe kind of give me a summary of if somebody's looking to get into it. Is there, like you said, a website you can go to, that there's an organization to go to?
Find a good gym. That would be my
Okay.
best advice. And find people that are open to, deal with people that want to be inviting and help you. That's the key. Ask a lot of questions, and there's a lot of people out there that want to help people get better. And there's no doubt about it in every sport. And find the right gym, it's just go from there. It's pretty basic. It's so much fun and it's so rewarding. It's given me everything that I could ever imagine in life, plus some. Everything. It's amazing and I'm sure you feel the same way. You know,
I mean, it
I just
it's
enjoy it so much.
yeah. Yeah, the people that I've met through running, and then, you mentioned it in the beginning about how it's like your identity, right? You're a
Yeah,
power lifter and people recognize it, and then they want to ask you questions, and you kind of build the relationship that way. Whereas, like, when, people are like, oh, that's that crazy runner, and you're like, yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah. Just help people. That would be, if you're in any type of status, maybe people look up to you for whatever you do. Help them. Help somebody else. Give them a bump along the way because
Yeah,
they're the next step, man. What greater feeling can you get from that? It's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll say one quick story and then we can wrap it up. But here's my example of helping people and being helped. So when I ran my 100 miler in Leadville in 2016, there were two people. There was a crew of like 30 people, but the two people that helped me the most was this kid, James Olson, Jimmy Olson. He was a retired Navy SEAL, and Kyle Dietz. He was a professional runner for Under Armour. But those guys paced me from like 50 to 100. And pacing just meant that because it's dark, you're out there in the mountains, they want someone to come with you in case something happens.
Mhm.
Mentally you start losing your function and like you try to do math and you can't. But anyway, so those guys helped me. And I told this story recently about how when I finished, I was like, wow, that was awesome. That was great. And I felt great. Like I could do anything after that, right? I could accomplish anything. But in 2021, I went back out there to help, and I trained with this guy, Austin Chesney, who Austin is one of my best friends, like a brother now. And we trained for 3 years because he got hurt one year, COVID deferred, and then he so basically trained with him for 3 years to run this race. And we went out there in 2021, and there was three of us that paced him, and it was me, Kurt Johnston, who I did a podcast with, and this kid Chris Brooks. And I'm telling you, Mark, when he barely made these cutoffs through the whole race because there's
Mhm.
cutoff times. If you don't make it to this checkpoint by this time, you're done. You're out of the race. So he made it barely on by like in one of them like 2 minutes to go.
Wow.
Anyway, when he finished, I cried more and felt more emotionally because I helped him. I felt like I helped him. And it was just,
Sure.
I got
Of course
more
you
out
did.
of that than doing the race myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Says it all, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. That's
Yeah.
you know, that's it. You hit the nail on the head, bud. That's what it's about, you know.
So I'm
Yeah,
sure it's probably
I
similar
love
when
how
you,
you knew every name. You just
oh
listed off.
yeah.
This guy was, you know, this became one of my best friends. Why? Because, you know, you spent a lot of time with these individuals.
Yeah.
They they helped you, you helped them. I mean, it doesn't matter how we get there, you know, and when we get older in life, we reflect a lot more. We say, wow, man, yeah, this was great. What I love about the meets, it doesn't, nobody cares if we come in first or last. It's the journey along the way, man. That's everything. That's the rub, you know, it's just traveling, hanging out, going out to dinners, you know, whatever. I love to travel. You know, my wife just says, go. If you love it, do it. Go, you know, come home. There's no money in this. You know, it's just, it's fun.
Yeah, we're not winning money in these races either. And you know what? I think the best part of our long run is we go to coffee afterwards
Okay.
and we just hang out for like an hour, hour and a
Yeah.
half sometimes. And
Yeah.
that's like the best part of my week.
Yeah. We basically do the same thing. It'll be dinner, and then we tell each other how sucky we are. That's really, that sums it up right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, oh man.
Really appreciate you doing this. It was really awesome to hear. I think that it's my theme I feel like is coming out of when I do these is it's about, you're never too young or too old to start something new. And I mean,
100%.
to hear how in your 50s and now in your 60s, you're still doing this and have all these records, and it's amazing. It inspires me all the time when I hear, like, I feed off all of that stuff. I love
Yeah.
hearing it. It's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Because you know, you're driven. You still want to be driven. You want to see what this old body can do, I guess. That's the best way to put it, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
So, all right, I do have one last question. What is
yeah.
next for you now? Is there anything on the
Well, I
horizon?
haven't competed in about 4 years, so I think it's time. I had a shoulder injury, like I told you, that's come back great. I did a lot of cupping, physical therapist, amazing. So yeah, I feel good. I mean, just ready to get back in it again. You know, my last meet, I won the dub the world championship in Chicago, Lombardi, Illinois, and I was the overall best lifter for that, and that was a great meet for me. And the one I did, the very last one, was a push pull that I set the world record at in deadlift and bench. I did a guest lifter because it was a local meet. So I never like to take a trophy away from a local meet. And that is a big deal to me because these up and coming lifters,
Yeah.
or it's everything. It's our sport, you know. So I was a guest lifter, but I got credited because it was a sanctioned meet. Um, but you know, that's what it's about, man. Just paying it forward, you know.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, no problem. I really do appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right. See you,
Okay.
Mark.
Bye bye.
Bye.